4, 3, 2, 1, 0. I hear voices in my head, they counsel me, they understand, they talk to me. Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka. Phenomena. Tiptoe through the tulips with me.
You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to
Talk supernatural. This one's explosive.
Ooh, we are working the mic of the airwaves tonight. Are you ready to take the bite? Yes, it's time to pair a binge on the wild, crazy TSR Fringe.
This is Talk Supernatural Radio, where we bring Supernatural 411 from the UK to the US, up north to down under, Rhode Island to Easter Island, from the outback to the front door. Even through Bud of Lewis, Scotland, to Tightwad, Missouri. And if you are listening, you are right where you're supposed to be.
The views and opinions and personalities expressed on this show are those solely of TSR and do represent who we are and what we believe. If you don't like satire, if you find rabbit trailing annoying, if you don't like to laugh, if you can't handle the truth, do not listen to this show. We are not responsible for your nightmares, denial issues, bleeding ears, or annoyance.
What's shaking, freaky freaks of the week? Much gratitude to you for dropping an ear to yet another episode of TSR. We are the ones, Heidi and Scott, your truth-casting doers, sharing with you supernatural stories that will make you laugh. And it will give you words, defining, momentable words.
Momentable.
It's a new word. To live right by.
You're so dramatic.
I know.
I wish our listeners could see you when the opening music's on, all the dancing.
It's a nude thing. We can't.
Nude?
Yeah, we're... Yeah.
Naked podcasting.
Yeah, naked podcasting.
It's another
we can't.
hot September night in the TSR Studio B.
September night.
This episode tonight, we are going to touch on some deep spiritual topics while broadcasting the disturbing headlines. It's pretty creepy stuff we got tonight. It's like you hear about it so much, so people just read over it and gloss over it. But if you really start thinking about, what if that was your neighbor? What if that happened in your family? That's creepy.
In our case, it usually is our neighbors.
Yeah. Well, we feel these stories are supernatural filled, so they are show-worthy tonight. In the TSR Hot Chair, we have Exorcism Kills, Horror Game Doorways, Where Do Demons Go When They Are Cast Out, and more.
Well, but first things first, and then that usually allows for second things to be second.
Oh, you're so smart.
And that would be to give a shout-out to Tracy in Michigan. She's a fairly new listener and has commented on a couple of our, can you believe it, our episodes.
Oh, imagine that.
She said she likes the show.
Yay.
Likes your book, Heidi.
Yay.
So we wanted to give her a shout out and say, hey.
Hey, Tracy, thanks for listening and, and liking us. That's a bonus.
And for the whole state of Michigan, which I think we probably have more Michigan listeners than anybody, don't we?
We have a lot, but I don't know. I didn't make a head count, so I'm not sure.
I've been counting them.
Have you?
Yes.
And how many are there?
I'm not going to go over that right now.
You want to do another shout out?
I can, and let's do another shout out.
All right.
Okay. Jerry K. from Florida. She has commented on our last Para News episode. She said, you guys are a cute, funny, supernatural, spiritual couple in Christ. Thanks for listening,
Yay.
ladies.
Yes, thank you.
And with all good comes the bad.
Oh.
There's always one. We also have some hate mail, which, guess we get to play our music.
All
so
right.
let's do it.
I hate you, everything about you. Don't wanna be in love with you no more. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you.
All right.
So this loathing comes from Brad D. in New Jersey. And New Jersey, we're sorry. Now here's what Brad says. Oh,
I typed it out for you.
Brad. Wow. How can you live with yourself throwing out all this crap to people? Are you honestly going to say the paranormal and religion mix? Mainly Christianity. The dogma of your religion clearly states the things of the preternatural nature is wrong. Shouldn't you be barred or excommunicated or something? Leave ghost hunting to the experts, and you go and shake an incense jar at Mass or something. And you can go ahead and use my last name. I don't care. I want people to know how much I detest shows like this.
There is so much to talk
Can
about.
we give the city? I think it was Moronville, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. It's your typical. I've listened to a partial one part of one episode, and I only heard the things I disagree with, and don't have the. It's your typical Bible believing people too, which are us. But what they do is a lot of religions. They'll go ahead and they'll pick a scripture here, a scripture there, a scripture over here.
Well, I don't think
and
he's
say, this is a religion. Now this guy
definitely
he picks
not religion.
Something out of our podcast, a little here, a little there, and says this is what they're about. No, we're not, Brad. God gave man and women 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Yeah.
Problem is, Brad, you're using your mouth 5 times as much as your ears.
You tell him. Well, you're all riled up, aren't you?
I am riled up because it's a lack of listening.
What's that commercial? I had a car and I named it Brad. You'd be like,
I loved Brad, and then I totaled him.
well, okay, so let's address some of these things that Brad said, because you know what? I even like our haters, because that means they're listening and we're getting them all stirred up inside. Okay.
Just like a mixer, like a big KitchenAid mixer, a big red one. Yeah, mixing it up.
Like a Culver's mixer.
Yeah, like a Culver's mixer. Yeah, got the Butterfinger up in there.
All right. So
I'm done with
anyways,
that.
okay, good. Paranormal and religion. No, paranormal and religion don't mix, because that's not what we were talking about. Those are just terms that people use. First of all, people may consider us religious, but by Christianity terms, we're not religious. I mean, we follow the Bible, and we do go to church, and we use the scriptures to confirm the paranormal, because if you've read the Bible, the entire Bible is full of the supernatural, demons, and
it is.
And that's what we talk about. And so I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say it mixes as far as how he views it, but it's just a terminology, I guess.
I guess he's going to have to just excommunicate Jesus too, because Jesus was running around casting out demons out of people, and he says, "Greater things shall you do." So, Jesus, you're out of the church.
And then he says, "Leave ghost hunting to the experts." We don't ghost hunt.
Yeah,
and
we did years ago.
Yeah,
this is where our experience comes from, and we have dealt with. Well, we've dealt with people like Brad that are obviously possessed.
Well, to me, though, ghost hunting and paranormal investigating are two different things. When you're a ghost hunter, you search out ghosts, you take pictures, and it's all fun and games. When you're a paranormal investigator, you have equipment and you take things seriously, and you're doing it for a reason to get.
Well, sometimes that paranormal investigation is more for the client than it is for you.
Right.
In our case, that's what it always was. It was like the client's like, "Are you sure?" It's like, "Okay, here's some evidence for you. Happy?" Because we already know what's going on here, and that's part of the spiritual gifts that we have. Knowing things without seeing evidence of it.
Yeah.
But you can't explain that to somebody who doesn't have the spiritual gifts or doesn't recognize that they have them.
And we're supernatural investigators, which means
I'm super and natural all by myself, Heidi.
Okay. You're naturally something, Scott.
Yes, I am. That's why I have the S for something.
Yeah. Anyways, now I lost track what I was saying. I don't even know. I don't remember. Oh, supernatural investigators. The big S chest thing was just getting me hot. So,
I know. Woo-hoo. Well, we are in Studio B today, which the air conditioner's not working in Studio B.
And it's about Studio 110.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways.
Well, hey, weight loss programs come in a lot of different forms, and this is just another one.
This is a TSR weight loss.
It's called Sweat Your Butt Off Till You're Thin.
Fantastic. So we are supernatural investigators. We don't deal with spirits. We deal with people. We are more concerned about the people's welfare and the affliction that they're dealing with versus finding out what the spirit is, because we deal with everything. We attack it as if it's demonic. It's not supposed to be there. And so you can't even compare us to ghost hunters. So Brad just must have listened to something, and I don't know what he's...
he might have fell down the stairs, too.
But and I'm not going to use his last name because I'm not going to...
He wanted us to. He wanted the credit.
Yep, he ain't getting it.
For every Brad D in New Jersey...
Sorry. Except for the
real one. Yeah.
All right, so story 1. Harvest moon tonight. Yeah, love it. So for all you who aren't astronomy nerds like me, this is the full moon that's closest to the autumn equinox. The equinox is the time when the sun crosses the celestial equator, when day and night are of equal length.
Oh, is that tonight?
Yeah, it is. It starts tonight, yeah. That's what I just said.
Get out.
Yeah.
You mean I got a 50-50 deal with day and light?
You do.
Wow.
I know. It's pretty weird. I feel very balanced right now.
I do.
So, okay, this happens twice a year, in September and March. And this year's harvest moon will rise tonight, and it officially turns full when it reaches the spot in the sky when it's completely opposite of the sun. So, it's...
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so it's going to be shaded by a subtle lunar eclipse, but only for Africa, Asia, and Australia.
That's where I'm going.
But the moon tends to look huge and orangey and really cool.
When the
You want to hear a funny story?
The sky like a big pizza pie, it's amore. What?
Beautiful. When I was younger, I think I told this story.
Yesterday you were younger.
No, I was. I think I was probably maybe like 12, and my mom went out, so I was home by myself, and the moon was huge outside. And now I think back, and I think it was the harvest moon, but it was so scary. I thought something was going. I thought it was the end of the world. So I'm like calling all my friends, and they're all like, "Oh my God, Heidi, go to bed." I'm like, "Oh, the moon's huge, it's attacking me." Oh, so
why do I believe that? Why do I believe that?
But I'll tell you, if it's cloudy tonight, it's going to stink because I really want to take pictures of it.
It'll smell the same either way.
But you can go to space.com and watch it live. They're on their
That's
thing.
cool.
So if it's cloudy by you, you can go there and check it out. It is pretty neat.
Or you could just go to outer space.
You could. You could
Different
go
view,
to outer space.
different viewpoint.
Right. And hands-on experience.
Right? Yeah. So now we know the moon is largely responsible for the rising and the falling of ocean tides. Yes. Well, in most places, but not all. This is because of the Earth-Moon gravitational pull. Does that affect us? Does it affect you?
They say it affects people. Do you think it does?
I don't know.
You know, like...
I suddenly have hair coming out of places it shouldn't.
That movie.
You know. What are you doing that for? What's that noise?
Because that's
you gotta go
wolf.
potty? You gotta go outside?
I actually do. I have to
go
go
outside?
This whole time.
Really? You had all this time to prep, and you
Yeah.
decided to wait till we actually started the
so
live podcast.
Excited to podcast.
Don't get too more excited. We'll have a little accident. Keep the legs crossed.
Okay.
I'm telling you, this will work.
I know. And
all right.
Okay, but anyway, so I don't know. You know, people say that full moons do affect you. And when I posted that this harvest moon was happening, someone that we know was like, "Oh, you know, I work at a hospital. All the crazies come out." So it's just well known that, you know, weird stuff happens. So I want to know what you think. Do you think there's something? There is something called Lunar Lunacy, and it's, you know, back in the day there was Luna, the sun god. So, I mean, the moon god. So did it come from lunatic, or did lunatic come from that? I don't know.
What do I think?
Yeah.
What do I think? I think we're affected by all sorts of different things.
The moon too?
Sure, why not?
What about star twinkling?
I don't know.
It makes me happy.
This is so far away. I think we can be, we're affected by a hot day, a cold day. We're affected by wind and cold. I mean, everything has an effect on us, and it doesn't mean that we may not always recognize that effect.
Well, I wonder if like there's energy. Well, I mean, if the moon affects the tides, you know, and our human body is about 80% water, so can we be affected by the tides? I mean, you know what? You know, you never know. You don't know. There's a huge majority of people who think the moon has some mystical powers that introduce erratic behavior. And there is some truth to that, because if you check the stats, there's a rise in psychiatric admissions and even just regular hospital admissions.
In general.
In general, yeah.
On lunar deals.
On lunar eclipse days. On full moons, yeah. And then the suicides and homicide rates.
We have a lunar eclipse tomorrow.
That's true, because they do. Suicides and homicide rates are higher at this time. And you could chalk it up to paranoia, but even irregular and bizarre animal behavior is cited. So it's not like they know there's a full moon.
That's what that squirrel was doing.
That was pretty weird. But, don't they say that animals can predict, like, when an earthquake's going to happen?
Yes, they do, before it happens.
Yeah.
So they know that.
I mean, you never know.
And there's something, I mean, it's off track a little bit. Not that we ever get off track or rabbit trailing. Anyway.
Not whatsoever.
But, now I just forgot what I was saying.
Animals and their sensitivity to things.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
I mean, just you see an animal sensitive this and that, and you're saying, well, nothing's going on. And this gets spiritual right here. So the animal sensing, and spiritually speaking, too, they are extremely sensitive. Some animals more than others, but cats and dogs can know if there's a ghost, if you will, an entity, something spiritually going on. They'll know.
Yeah.
Just like with all these things, they know before we know.
It's true.
Are they, because they don't maybe have the, how do I put this? Maybe they don't have obviously they don't have the brains that people do have, and they don't have all this thought process and trying to rationalize why this is or isn't. All they know is it is. They recognize what is going on.
We think things through too much.
We think it through, which blocks it all out.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And we all do that, and that's why they say, well, like women sometimes are a little more
angry when they get PMS.
Well, they can be a little more sensitive to things, and that's just the way they're wired.
Yeah, it's the way I'm wired.
It's the way they're wired.
Like Operation. You got the funny bone. I'm wired wrong. But no, yeah, I agree. I think that we do have more sensitivity in animals. We've seen it. And they say when bad weather comes or earthquakes, like they say, when a tornado's going to come because all the birds are quiet and silent. And that is true. It's true. So
and I've experienced that.
Yeah. And
that's one of the things that is, now that I remember I was probably like 12 at the time, we had a tornado that hit nearby. And I remember going outside, or going next door to just check on the lady next door. She's very old. And I remember the sky was that yellow thing and weird. But then what got my attention was the eeriness of complete silence from all the animals, which you don't think much of unless it stops.
Yeah, exactly.
You step outside, you're like, I don't hear anything, and it's a summer day. It don't catch you.
Right, that's true.
What is that, And that's when you know something's going on. So now I know if I don't really worry about it unless the animals quit chirping, and I'm like, we're fine. Well,
and dogs can hear things that we can't and see things differently. And so, I mean, it's not that far-fetched to say a full moon would affect people.
Never know. There's, gravitation and all that. I mean.
Sure.
So.
And there's several, like you were saying, the police department, they actually do add officers during full moon nights because it's an effort to cope with the higher crime occurrences. Huh. So it's just weird. But what about this theory, too, and on a spiritual thing? So God warns people in Deuteronomy not to worship the sun or moon, and he's really adamant about that. And there were a lot of moon gods and all that, and still to this day there's a lot of people who worship moon gods and all that. So do you think because of the rituals that take place or have taken place?
Is the moon god like a crater face?
Stupid.
What a rockhead.
Oh, you are becoming the pun king. Oh, no. Oh, the grandkids are going to be like, oh, God.
Do we really have to go to Grandpa's? Really? He's so weird.
Not that you're a grandpa yet, but one day you will be. Yeah, so, when they have these rituals for these moon gods and stuff, I'm wondering if they are unleashing spirits. And maybe people are affected by that negative energy or... you never know. Or even a generational thing where in the past ancestors have, let's say, raised up some kind of demonic spirit worshiping a moon god or whatever. And, that generational curse goes on. And so someone who maybe normally wouldn't do something, they go a little off kilter. Off their keister. Yeah. I just wanted to use keister. Such a fun
Are
word.
you cracking yourself up right now?
Keister. Is that
Keister.
is that a Polish word for butt? Or something, isn't it?
What? I don't know. I don't know about Polish words for butt. It's not something I take a lot of time in studying. But obviously some of us do.
Just say it. Keister.
Okay. Well, our second story isn't as cool, but it is more freaky. Mm-hmm. Now, a Maryland woman stabbed and killed 2 of her children and injuring 2 older siblings in a horrific attempt to exorcise demons from them.
This is becoming a trend. Hey, I'm going to exorcise the demon for my kids, so let's kill them.
We've heard this about some other people and other things, too. So,
but that's it. There's a lot in the news, and I think that's why I had mentioned, I think, was it last week, that there's, like, repeat offender or mass attacks. You know, like you have copycats.
Right.
Post office, and we talk about copycat serial killers and so forth, and crimes. And now we're having copycat killings. And I'm wondering if that's what's going on is... I mean, all of a sudden, you're hearing all the time about these people who are killing their kids trying to exorcise demons, when we know it's probably the people that are possessed themselves. So, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Well, this chick's name is, I don't even know how to pronounce this. And this is a hard one. Zakia Avery. She's of Germantown, Maryland. And the prosecutors say that her behavior before the stabbings shows strong evidence that she was delusional. And I mean, we've talked about this before. There's a really thin line between mental illness and demonic influence. So, and demonic influence can make you go crazy too. So, I mean, you know, Avery and her house guest stabbed and murdered her 18-month-old and her 2-year-old. And I mean, wow, you know, okay. So she also had an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they were attacked as well, but they survived.
Very lucky. That's still pretty little.
Gosh. 31-year-old Avery believed that her children were possessed by demons.
Now, this isn't a case of a fake plea. The devil made me do it. He literally had his hands in this deal here.
I totally believe that, because they found some lengthy writing that she did in a journal, and it was shortly before she attempted this crime, and it talked about demons and spirit boyfriends.
You know, the woman called themselves demon warriors and even lived in a car for over a week in order to avoid demons in their house.
So, I mean, there was really definitely something going on here, because that's not normal behavior.
You know, I think, too, I mean...
What are the chances that 2 mentally ill people are, you know...
Well, you know, I mean, we should look up the scripture and have it ready, but it said that in latter days,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if it's in prophecy, if it's New Testament or what, maybe somebody can help me out with that, send it to me. But something about that, you know, people will die in fear and stuff. They'll be able to actually see some of these demonic figures.
Yeah, I think that's in Revelation.
Doesn't mean everybody's going to see it.
Right.
But now, who's to say? We, you know, many religions, you know, I know, except for Brad, would believe, you know, will know that it's like, yeah, we are in late days here. This is coming to an end. I mean, look at our presidential candidates. You know, so with that in mind, are we having some people that are starting to see and feel things that years ago it didn't? Now, we've always had people that are on the edge.
Sure.
But you're seeing more and more of this.
Right.
You're seeing, I mean, there's no new sin under, you know, it's just more and more and more and more of the same sin created a different way.
Yeah, more creativity.
So now we see people, and who's to say? Now, obviously, is this normal behavior for someone to do this? No. Is it sick and disturbing and very sad? Yes, it is. But is there something to this we don't know? Well, is she seeing something?
Right.
And she's going to, you know, be locked up or whatever it's going to be. But
these are the people that I actually like to talk to, because the people that interview them have already made up in their minds that they're nuts. So they're not going to get any help. They're just going to get medicated up, locked up, and that's it, and their life's over. But in this case, what's interesting is that they have the classic telltale signs of demonic influence. Well, we had the bizarre writings, first of all, but they also didn't bathe or eat for several days during this time. And that's really common when you're spiritually, demonically oppressed.
Demonic oppression, because demonic has absolutely no use for you but to achieve their goal through you.
Right.
And preserving your body in any which way or form is just not of interest.
Right. They don't care.
Not of interest.
And when you're oppressed, I mean, and I'm sure everybody listening knows that at least one person in their lifetime that has been depressed. And those people don't care to take care of themselves.
No.
And depression, 9 times out of 10, I mean, that 1% time is obviously a physical, but the rest of the time it's spiritual. And demonic don't really care. In fact, they want you to lower your body and your standards and stuff, because that just, it goes along with, I guess, not being mentally fit. But Avery had also previously been treated for mental health issues and prescribed medication, but she actually threw it away because she believed that God delivered her from her mental illness. And, you know,
that can be a delusion too.
Exactly.
The devil has no problem, or the adversary or its minions or whatever, has no problem using God as a tool.
Yeah.
Just as God uses him as a tool.
Sure.
It works both ways, but God allows or doesn't allow. You know, what if we took people like this, and, you know, obviously an individual like this needs to be locked up and ever. But what if they were to take these people and say, you know, yeah, you're going to be locked up, and yeah, you're going to stay here, blah, blah, blah. But what if they took a spiritual side of this thing and investigated it in a different way? It's like, you know, yeah, we can't really let you out because of what you've done. However, we'd like to do further studies, and not with the accusations of you're just freaky. It's like, dig, you know.
That's my dream job.
Get the right people in there to actually, you know,
I have this dream, and my dream is there was this episode of Dr. Phil, and I don't watch Dr. Phil, but I think I was sick or something, so I had the TV on, and it happened to be on, and there was this little girl who had, and she was young, and she had schizophrenia, and she was nuts, and you could tell that there was something that it was demonic. You could just tell by what she talked about. She talked about demons and stuff, and every time she tried to talk about the demons, and the reporters or whatever tried to get her to talk more, the doctors were trying to shut her down about the demons. You know, like,
right.
So...
Just let her say what she needs to say.
But my dream would be to go to Dr. Phil and say, look, give me a shot at this girl. I want to go and see how she reacts to me, and I want to take it at a spiritual angle just to see. Because imagine, well, God would get total glory for that, but imagine to be able to prove to all the people watching, her family, that it was spiritual the whole time. And I mean, it happened tons of times in the Bible, and we've seen it happen with clients.
Right.
So, I mean, that would be a dream for me to do. But I highly doubt Dr. Phil's listening and going to give me a call. Maybe
we could find Brad. And we could get inside of his head, which I'm sure is not much in there anyways. But we could.
Nice.
We could. No, keep going. Never mind.
Well, you know, and along the whole mental illness thing, I mean, we just had a client call us or contact us within the last couple of weeks about the past case that we were on, and said that the lady that we were trying to help is now in a mental institution, and she's just gone over the edge. And I don't know what began first, the mental illness or the spiritual illness, or was it always one and the same? I don't know, because we didn't get to spend that much time with her.
No.
I would have liked to more, but she just declined. But I've mentioned it many times in past podcasts that I thought she was mentally ill, and I saw a demon form right in front of her, and it threw me for a loop because I didn't think that. So I know for sure there was something demonic going on, and now there's no hope. She's lost her kids. You know, she's in a mental institution.
Well, you know, you have this, it just brings to mind, you have the whole cause and effect. You know, at first, she's not mentally ill. She's oppressed.
Right,
depressed.
Right. Spiritually ill.
And people can say, well, you know, she's got this and she got this. Well, through years of that, she now has the problem, and now here's the effect.
Yes.
Now the effect is, now she's too far gone.
Right.
Can she be brought back? Well, God can do anything, but she's not in a situation or an atmosphere that's going to be allowed to happen.
Right. Who's going to walk in there? I don't even know where she's at.
Right. So, I mean, you know, people say, well, how do you say maybe she's always been nuts? No, I mean... No,
because they talked about how people that knew her were like, no, she was fine.
So what changed?
Right. Something had to have happened.
Right. And you say, well, you know, she's just that way. That's a family thing. It's, well, you can't...
No,
there's always more to it.
You can't assume like that.
Just because you can't see what's going on doesn't mean there's something going on. I mean, you know, before you know, why do you always hear about people having stage 4 cancer? What happened to 1, 2, and 3? They didn't recognize the problem was already there. But until you got so far into it before you went and sought help because you didn't recognize it. Well, now, they were already sick.
Yeah.
They already had it. It wasn't going away. But they had to get so bad.
It manifests.
And manifests itself to a point where you can say, wow, I'm going to the doctor. Oh, no, you're very sick. I'm like, well, gee, I didn't know this. Why? How is this any different? You start out with just a little oppression, a little depressed, a little thought, a little shadow here, a little something here. Oh, maybe I just need a little more rest. Maybe I just need a little medication. Well, I'm not sleeping well. I'll get prescribed some things and I'll be okay. Well, you know what? That just keeps going and going and going. And then we go down the road and guess what? Now you're full-blown oppressed and you've got so much things going on in your head that people just say you're nuts. Well, they didn't start out that way.
And yeah, like you said, you get in that situation,
right.
You know, and if anybody's listening and they find someone that they care about is in that situation, we're not saying that there's no hope because God always answers prayers. I mean, you can pray and pray and pray, and God can make a way because that person can't pray for themselves, you know.
Right, and that's what's called the whole thing with people praying for somebody else. Interceding. You know,
it sucks.
And sometimes these things have to go this way. There's other people involved, and it could be people involved we don't even know about that are being moved or touched or provide a way for them to get help.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you can go to the generational curse. I mean, it's all sorts of scenarios.
Right. Yeah.
All we can do, you know, is do what the right thing is. And for us right now, you know, pray for them, you know.
Yeah, it's all you can do right now.
Use them as, you know, just like the Bible. I mean, all the Old Testament is examples for us.
Mm-hmm.
In the New Testament, how to live, what to do, results, blah, blah, blah. Well, a lot of these people that have fallen through the wayside are now examples for those to come to say, here's what happens when you don't, you know, get where you need to be or seek help sooner or you know, go down the right road, avenue, whatever. I mean, this is what can happen. So we can look at things in a lot of different views.
And, you know, and with me, I think about my book and I put in there a lot of things that I went through. And I didn't want to put a lot of that stuff in there because I was pretty transparent. And I mean, there's everything from crime to alcoholism in there. And when you go down that road, I mean, there's going to be only one way out. It's always going to be
If I only
God.
knew then what I know now.
Shut up, man.
It would not be the Heidi and Scott show.
It would be the Heidi and Chris Hemsworth show. Thor.
You Thor.
All right. So, see, that's what you get. From
I'm more of a Black Widow type.
Oh, yeah.
Or a widow.
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah,
Johansson. All right. So, anyways, to get out with this story.
No rabbit trailing here.
No, of course
We're
not.
fine.
Yeah.
We're focused.
Avery's friend that participated in the killings, she took a plea deal, and she was also committed to a psychiatric hospital. And the judge found that Avery has bipolar disorder with psychotic features and borderline personality disorder. So she pled guilty, and she's been found criminally insane. So now, pretty much her deal's over now, too.
And the government will take care of her the rest of her life.
Yeah. So, and then you think about all these people that this has happened to for who knows how long. And we always talk about how certain places always seem to be haunted, and asylums are one of them. So a lot of people die there. And when they die, where do those spirits go? They don't hang out with them at the grave.
Well, we got to personally experience asylums.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
wow.
And the one we went to was a criminally insane,
right,
so there's a lot of major stuff.
Serious junk going on in those places spiritually.
Oh, yeah.
And
It's...
you don't have to believe it. We know.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
We know.
And you think about what percentage of the people in these asylums were spiritually afflicted versus just physically. I mean, and then let's say you've got, you know, like...
Well, according to the Word of God, everything's spiritual.
That's true.
Everything is. So, you know.
I guess.
You take these people in the Bible, there's some that were born, you know, crippled from life at birth.
Yeah.
We say, well, he's always been that way. Then how did he get healed?
Mm.
How was that fixed?
Yeah, that's true.
If he's always been that way, if he was born that way, or you've been blind and now you can see. You've always been blind. Well, I've always been blind. I mean, and now you can see. I mean,
that's spiritual.
That means it's spiritual. It was approached spiritually, you know, and it was fixed spiritually. So it was a spiritual problem.
And there was also, and I really need to remember this story because I bring it up a lot and I always forget the details. That's just me though. But there was a king that was struck with insanity and he was barking like a dog and he was in the fields for a while. So, I mean, and then That's spiritual.
He was healed and restored.
Yeah. So you never know. All right. Our third story is sort of.
I'm thinking, who would really want to restore the king that was barking in the field? I mean, at this point, it's like, okay, yeah, we got you better. Why don't you go find something else to do? Because last week you were barking in a field.
Well, I don't think
going to rule our country anymore.
I don't think he went up from there. I think something else happened to him. I think he died shortly after. So I don't think he was king again or something. Oh. I don't remember. I got to look this up.
I do and I don't.
I feel bad.
I know.
Oh, all right. Along these lines is another story of demonic influence. 5 children from the same family became aggressive and what many think were possessed after they were playing the Charlie Charlie game. Now, they're from Nicaragua, so they called it Panchito. I think I'm saying that right. So, okay, there are stories of kids playing this game, the Charlie Charlie game, and if you guys, I'm sure everybody knows, but if by chance you're the 1% that doesn't know, it's that little pencil thing where they make the little cross, and then they ask Charlie Charlie, it's like, I think a yes and a no thing on paper, and it's sort of like a Ouija board, very simplistic. But, and then you just ask questions. But kids doing this, I mean, let's say you have 100 kids doing it. Well, half have said, you know what? We started having strange dreams, really realistic nightmares. And a lot of them said that they were hearing voices, or in the dreams, voices were telling them to do violent things. And they would have these instincts. So the story doesn't seem that off the wall when one of these kids said that after she began hearing voices telling her to cut off the heads of her family members. Oh. And another one said that something ugly was inside of them and it was burning them. Uh-huh. So many who know the family say that the 5 kids were nice, good, decent kids, normal kids, but they started becoming real hostile in nature. Okay. So there was a change. And they were showing people the wounds on their hands and because they were punching walls and trees. And that's not something they ever did before. So, if kids are making this up, all 5 of them wouldn't go around hurting themselves. You know what I mean? They were already curious about the paranormal, though, because they'd been ghost hunting in an old rope factory, and one of the kids claimed that an evil spirit caused burns around her neck. So I'm thinking, did this Charlie Charlie thing bring something out, or was something already with them and this brought in more? I mean, maybe there was something already going on. Pastors from a church prayed for them, and when the pastors were praying on them, 4 of the kids actually tried to attack the pastors. And the other one covered his ear so he couldn't hear what they were saying. But then he also became aggressive and tried to hit the pastors. And the family members actually had to hold the kids down while the pastors prayed for them. And I guess eventually the kids they said they were freed from whatever was getting a hold of them.
Being curious about the paranormal is okay, good. We all need to know the true nature of our existence, don't we?
Yeah, and so it's okay to want to know.
But there is a problem.
And what is that?
When you don't have the right people teaching you or factual resources guiding you, you just get deeper involved into dark supernatural forces and become more susceptible to their attacks, influences, and dominions.
That's true.
How many people, we talked about this at dinner, it's like, people go around playing with this stuff, and they say, look, see, nothing happens, and I say, and how many people are going to say, let's go over there and pet the leper, Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, look, I touched the person with leprosy, I'm fine. Look, everything's fine. Look, he got leprosy. Look, you can touch him too. Everybody, come and touch the lepers, everybody. And weeks later...
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Didn't you see the disease coming at you? Well, you can't see it. Didn't you see that flu and that person coughed on you? You can't see the flu. You can't see the cough. You couldn't see the cancer coming in your food and your air and your water. You didn't see any of this happening. Does that mean it wasn't there? Well, obviously, your end result is it was. Something had to have been there.
Yeah.
Once upon a time. Well, that's germs. That's different. Well, why is that got to be different? You can't see supernatural things. That doesn't mean they're not there. So when you start playing with fires, I got burned. Duh. At least you got to see the fire.
Yeah, it's true.
You had a little warning, but and that's what happens for some people who don't, believe in some of the supernatural things, and no one's asking you to believe. For those like people like Brad and we're full of crud and all this other stuff. It's like you don't have to believe,
right?
Just go away. But there's plenty of people that listen to us that realize, we do have problems. I have seen it. I have felt this. I do understand. what, where do I fit
Yeah.
in? How can I get help? What did I do to create this? Maybe you did nothing. It doesn't mean it's there or not there. Somewhere along the line, that, as an example, coughed on you, you touched something, and you've become afflicted without little cause of your own.
Right.
How many people running around with sicknesses say, well, I asked for it? Most people don't. I mean, there are some people, it's like, well, okay, you ate this your whole life, and you did this, and you've been on crack for, 10 years. I mean, you got some problems, but, that kind of was brought, but most people who have serious illnesses were just, well, it goes.
It's like crack is like equivalent to a Ouija board. It's like, yeah, you keep using those things, something's going to happen.
At least with crack, you can probably stop using it and get help. With a Ouija board, you can stop using it, and the problem's going to keep coming until you do something to get rid of the problem.
Yeah.
More so. You can't stop doing a Ouija board. Once you've opened up the door enough, the door's open.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's, if every single time someone uses a Ouija board, if they bring something in, but you don't want to take that risk. And then you've also got the fact that sometimes when you use a Ouija board or even do an EVP or call out a spirit and nothing happens, so you think it didn't work,
right.
But it's a very clever spirit and it slowly works on you, or it just stays with you, like you had mentioned in a past episode. It watches you, it studies you to see where you're weakest, where it can attack, or it'll go to one of your kids, because that could be one of your weaknesses is your
right.
kids.
And we also have to understand, it is, like you said, that studies and watches you, that the demonic world is not omnipresent.
Right.
Therefore, unlike God, who knows all things, all places, all the time, the demonic world does not. So if you've allowed a demonic spirit into your world, it, like you said, it needs to study, take time, see your pros, your cons, see a different, weaker vessel that can work through you, and go that route. So that's a good point.
Yeah. So I guess, the whole thing is these types of games or whatever, and we talked last week in the reject segment about the
finger lady.
The night terror, the night terror game or whatever.
Lady. It's like cutting off her fingers or whatever.
No, but I mean, these games, these supernatural games, are dangerous. They may seem fun, and EVPs even calling out spirits or trying to talk to them. You're inviting them in, whether you believe that it's going to happen or not. So, like you said, being curious about the paranormal is okay. But to want to know,
well, you can be curious about, and I'm using some of the same examples, I know, but you could say I'm curious about the medical field, and I'm curious about diseases and how they're formed and all these things. Does this mean you go get a disease? No, it's not how you do it.
Yeah.
There's scientists for this. There's doctors. There's laboratories that do it under a controlled environment because, well, somebody's got to do it.
Well, I think the problem is
Right.
is ignorance, and maybe even a
Ignorance,
little bit
right.
of pride, because they're like, oh, that's not going to happen to you. Oh, I can control it. I can manage it. And you can't. The fact that people even think that shows their ignorance. And I don't mean to be rude or try to offend anybody, but I've been there, and we know a lot of
There's
people
a percentage of people that will argue the point that may be listening even tonight. Well, I've been ghost hunting for 10 years or whatever, and we've got a team, and we've never had a problem, and you people don't know what you're talking about, and you obviously don't have any experience like us, because we can do this, and we can do that, and blah, blah, blah. Well, you're just a perfect vessel right now, and you're being used because you're doing everything the adversary wants you to do.
It's true.
Just keep doing it. You keep opening up doors for people. You keep going to their houses, and you just keep opening up. They're like, you know what? There's no need to afflict you. You are afflicting yourself.
And that's actually a really good point, because when I was a kid, I'm like the only 11-year-old on the block that was teaching
I believe
other
this.
little kids who were like 7, 8, 9 years old. I was 11 teaching them how to hold a seance, how to put people in a trance.
Why did I marry you?
Because I'm normal now. I was normal.
Really?
Yeah.
When did this normalcy take place?
Well, normal to the point of like I'm mentally stable.
Really?
See, you're not, so you wouldn't recognize it. So
if you've read her book, you'll side with me.
No, stop, you're mean. But I think that nothing bad was happening to me then, because I was being used.
Right.
And it's
you were a tool.
I'm a very
You don't ruin That's a tool.
Yeah. And then the second I started turning away from it was when I'd have problems. And then, there's a Sylvia Brown is a good example. She lived this great life. Well, she was in a very effective tool. If they would have attacked her and done something, they wouldn't have had that tool to lead people the wrong way. Yeah. So, I don't know. Sorry for Sylvia lovers out there, but I'm not a fan. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is more of a story than headline news, but it was taken from a reputable source, so it's just going to generate a good discussion. Okay, so someone donated a supposed haunted Ouija board to these collectors of haunted artifacts, okay? Now, the story behind it was that it was used in a haunted Chicago cemetery by some teens. Huh. They say they contacted a spirit who said its name was Black Hen. They used it many times before, the Ouija board, but the planchette was going so fast in the cemetery that the board began to smoke and it started to combust in the middle.
That's moving fast.
Yeah. And it was happening because it kept spelling out Black Hen, Black Hen, Black Hen, and it was going so fast. Yeah. So they were like, and it was dark, but they were like, is that smoke? Like, is it? Whoa. They were freaked out. Right. So they stopped using it. They jumped up. They were like a little freaked out, and they said it started moving by itself, which I have seen. I have seen a planchette move by itself, so I know that can happen. So they were freaked out. They ran, and they left it there. They just left. Okay,
I can see that.
Who wouldn't do that? See ya.
Right. I can see that.
Graveyard's where you belong.
Right. It's like, you stay right here. We're leaving.
And then when they got back, one of the people that left there, they had their backpack there with their with a school book.
So they had to go back.
They had to go back, but they didn't want to go back that night because they were scared and whatever. So they wanted to wait till at least till morning when the sun was up. Less scary, obviously. Okay. So they went back, got their backpack, and everything was okay. They decided to bring the Ouija board home to show their parents or get rid of it or whatever they were going to do. Their parents, first of all, were just furious that they snuck out of the house to do this. Okay. And, back then probably, people weren't thrilled about Ouija boards either. So they got grounded, and the parents threw the Ouija board away in the garbage. Later that day,
always come back.
They do. Later that day, smoke alarms in the house start going off. No fire, no smoke. Over half a dozen smoke alarms, and the parents are like looking at, and they're all standing on these smoke alarms. They're like,
"Yeah, not one,
a
bunch of them."
I think they said half a dozen. Yeah.
Wow.
So they're like, okay, this is just weird. So obviously, they said on the kitchen table were all these smoke alarms with the batteries out because they were like, okay, I don't know what's going on. And you do have people parents and stuff who either they don't believe it and they just will rationalize it, or they do believe it and they're so freaked out they don't want to talk about it. So it's just, which makes sense. Yeah. So, okay, then the next day comes and what happens? Oh, the dog digs the Ouija board out of the garbage, brings it into the living room on the carpet, and the black soot from the Ouija board stained the carpet, and the mom's like furious, trying to get it out.
Always finds a way. Like, what interest would a dog have in a piece of burnt cardboard?
Yeah, ew.
They like the smell of food items, paper, garbage, something that has food on them of some sort. They're not interested in a piece of cardboard.
Exactly.
Most dogs. I know I've seen some dogs eat some crazy stuff. But.
Well, then the family started experiencing weird things. Like they were being locked in rooms without the door actually being locked. Okay, that was one thing. A rotting meat smell, common in the demonic stuff. One of the brothers was having... That is? I have a feeling a really bad joke's coming on.
No.
What is it?
Forget it then.
No, I want to know. No, I really want to know why it is.
They don't have a lot of refrigeration down in hell. It's common sense.
You're right. Okay. The one brother was having super bad nosebleeds, and he wasn't having nosebleeds before. And then they all were one of them was starting to feel like intense fear, paranoia, and then, of course, strange behavior by the dog. Days later, dinner time comes, and everyone witnesses a shadow figure of a man. The parents, too. In fact, the dad gets up and confronts him and says, who are you? What are you doing here? And he tells his wife, call 911. And this thing just turns around and walks away.
He was able to actually...
see a figure of a man.
See a figure enough not to be just a quick glimpse, more of
right.
What is that? And the whole family sees it?
Yeah.
That's a pretty strong apparition going on.
Right, exactly.
That's ugliness.
And then, so they go.
I'm just here to make your life miserable.
So they get up and they go to, see, and obviously the guy's gone. Check
Right.
the windows, everything's fine. No one was in their house. And all of a sudden the Ouija board was back on the carpet in the spot with the black thing, where the soot
spot
was.
of dirt, yeah.
But the trash had been taken out 2 days before. The trash collector, the garbage men came.
Found its way back.
And, it's happened to me in the past, so I know
Right.
that happens. I don't know how. I don't want to know. So, very weird.
And this, it may not be the common occurrence for everybody, but it is a common thing for Ouija boards just to find their way back.
If you find one with a strong spirit, or you call in a strong spirit, yeah, you're screwed.
It's just like, who would have ever thought the dog would have jumped in the garbage and got it?
Yeah.
What are the chances of that? Of all things.
Yeah.
And this happens all the time.
Well, in my book, I talk about when I was going into my high school, my freshman year, and that summer before freshman year, we were doing the Ouija, or someone was doing the Ouija board. I went to their house, and they were having a lot of issues because they were using the Ouija board. They knew I was into that stuff, so they're like, how do we stop this? I'm like, I don't know. I always call it in. I don't stop it. So, I don't know. But one of the things that happened to them was the reason they were so freaked out is because they had all these bad experiences. They get rid of the Ouija board. They throw it in the trash out at the end of the drive in the trash bin, right? Next morning, it's floating in their swimming pool. How does that happen, right?
Right.
So, whatever. But anyways.
Maybe it was hot.
It was. They ended up calling in a priest to exorcise the house. And I guess...
But the house is in shape now.
I hope so.
With all that exercise.
That's good. But here's what's interesting, how it was spelling black hen. That's sort of an odd thing, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, black hens were actually used in witchcraft and voodoo, and they still are. The eggs and the feathers of black hens are used for curses and spells.
Huh.
So now... there's one curse where black hen eggs are actually mixed with graveyard dirt. And remember, they were in the graveyard when it...
Really?
Yeah. So, I don't think it's a coincidence. Now, this story comes off the website of the artifact collectors, okay?
Uh-huh.
Now, they have their own idea of what it was. They, they're like, well, maybe it's this. They just do different scenarios. One of the things they said, which I would disagree with, is that spirits... They said something like, we never met a spirit that didn't have a story to tell. People misunderstand what these... So they're saying that the spirit could have possibly had a curse over it and was trying to get their attention. It's like, no. Because I just don't understand why people think that when a person dies, that their spirit has all this power to do this stuff. Like, who says that? Like, demons we know do because the Bible says so. But it doesn't say anything about people's spirits doing anything. So I don't believe it. But that's my viewpoint of this.
Right.
So,
I wanted to just say this, which is nothing to do with anything, but some of the stories I don't, just for our listeners here, I don't know about, like this story. Mm-hmm. And we do that purposely.
Right.
Because it makes our conversation, just for people to say, Scott, you mean you didn't know that? Yeah, some of these stories I don't know because until we get here, because it makes it more real.
Yeah, because we've already talked it through. It's like
some things we've mentioned and we've talked about some of the things, but some of the things I know nothing about. So when I say really, I don't know. I don't know.
It's true, yeah.
It's true. I just thought I'd throw that out there because people don't realize that's part of what we do is we don't want to know every detail. I want this to be... So when you ask me what I think, I didn't have time to pre-think it.
Right, yeah, true.
Kind of like, well,
And you work better that way anyways.
Yeah, there's kind of a hidden... it's okay, because people always want to know us a little bit better. I really stink at reading. Now, I can read just fine. I can read like anybody else, but when you tell me to do something, I stink at it.
Yeah, you do.
But if you just let me do it, I'll do well.
Yeah.
Well,
you're like that in any aspect of life, though.
And so a lot of this stuff, some of this stuff is written out, and some of it's ad-libbed. I mean, we have to write out the story so we get the names right and things, but
right.
Sometimes it's like, I can't read that. I'll mess it up. My mind goes ahead of what I think I should say before what is actually written. I'm like...
And you're like that in every aspect of life, too. So I can't tell you to go do something. You just have to do it. You're much better that way. So, yeah, I try not to tell you. There's some things I'm just so like, oh, my gosh, so I got to tell you. But
right.
Yeah,
I mean, some things it's nice to know because I have some thought going on. But some of these stories like this one here, it's like, wow, I didn't know about this whole bird thing. What's up with that?
Yeah, what's up with that?
What's up with the birds, man?
What's up with that? That was Saturday Night Live. What's up with that? I'm just gonna crack up and nose me like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah, that's pretty new. They should know that.
Okay, so one of the things I want to ask you is, what do you think about? I obviously believe that it's totally dangerous to keep or to collect haunted items. I mean, when you open up a place solely for dealing with haunted items and you dedicate your time to house them and study them, you're totally giving the right to spirits to attach to you or enter your life.
I don't know why you'd even bother asking me what I think about that. I mean, it's just like, collecting anything I said before. Like I collect lepers and I collect poisonous snakes and sleep with them and I do all these things. Like, well, a lot of people can say, well, it never bothered me. Well,
yeah, it's gonna bother
just
you
because it don't bother you now.
People collecting and keeping haunted items, whether it be haunted dolls or collecting haunted items to help people, which their heart might be in the right place, but there are so many things.
I don't see how keeping a haunted item helps anybody.
Well, it helps the person they took it from. They
right,
think.
But to keep it in existence, what's the point of it?
Well,
and that's not what they're doing with it, though.
Right. Well, okay. So most of the time, demons will attach themselves to people, not items. For whatever reason, sometimes they're stuck with an item. Why, I don't know.
Don't know that answer.
I don't understand everything. But like there's some groups that what they do is they collect these haunted items and then they go around and have like these little shows where they let people, they charge people or sometimes it's free and they let them touch the items and see the items and then meanwhile the people that collect them are researching and studying them. It's like all you're doing is saying, hey, spirit, I'm interested in you. Let's dance. It's like that's messed up. That's dangerous.
You can dance if you want to. Leave your friends behind.
Well, So, I guess, when Jesus cast out the Legion, was it Legion?
Yeah.
And they begged, they said, please.
My name is Legion.
But what did they say? They said, we don't want to go, because he cast them into the pigs, but he was going to send them somewhere.
And they knew that.
And they knew, and they didn't want to go there. So,
right.
I don't, wonder what
They didn't want to go back to where they came from.
Right.
So wherever that place is, they didn't like either.
They didn't want to go there. So please, they begged him. So he sent them in the pigs.
Probably from where Brad's from.
Oh, stop talking about Brad. Because Brad's just getting too much attention.
He likes it, though.
Yeah, I don't want to give him anything.
He's all happy with himself right now.
See? That's what it'll say.
Yeah.
But those pigs jumped over the cliff, so I wonder what happened to the spirits then. They probably ended up in the place that they went, or they didn't want to go. I don't know what happens to spirits when a spirit is attached to...
a lot of bacon, though.
Oh, gross. I've seen where a spirit has been attached to a person and that person passes on, and then whatever demon was with that person goes to their child or their grandchild.
Right. Has to go someplace.
Yeah, it's like a generational thing. And then there's times where maybe it does get attached to an item. Maybe it's a curse to them. I don't know. But to take the risk of keeping it for the process of a study, guess what? You're never going to figure out demons. No matter how many EVPs you have or how many readings or how many sightings.
Devices.
You're never going to figure out the supernatural. No. That's why it's supernatural. Until you are supernatural, you're a spirit.
Which,
no.
We've already been over this earlier in the podcast, which I know none of my listeners would have forgotten. I am supernatural.
Ugh.
In the flesh, baby.
Oh my!
This is the ultimate male versus the ultimate meatball.
You're the meatball, right?
Yeah. Anyway,
it's so wrong. You're so wrong.
I know.
But I don't know. I just think it's really dangerous to do that. And if you guys ever have the opportunity to go see a haunted artifact, don't do it. Don't ghost hunt. You're just inviting so much problems. I don't know. I just...
Yeah.
And then in the case of these people, that was their story, and so what they did was they buried this Ouija board in the ground. The priest that helped the family, they buried it in the ground.
Should have been burned.
And then years later, these kids are adults now. They know about this. These people who have these haunted artifacts contacted them, go back to their moms, dig it up, and they go give it to them. So now they have it. And I'm actually going to put a picture of the planchette because it was all melted.
What kind of
and
shape
everything.
is that in being in the ground?
The Ouija board actually was nothing, but they have the planchette, which was, that plastic piece.
Right.
And that was the thing that started, like, melting and everything because of the combustion. So they have that still.
How nice.
Yeah. Now, is there a chance this story is totally fake? That the people made this up and they gave it to this group? Sure. Possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
But a lot of that stuff I've witnessed myself. That was my ice in my cup. You're like, what is that noise?
Why is the ice moving on its own?
That's melting, Scott. You're fine. Okay,
So, all right. Well, we are almost out of time. I do want to mention that tomorrow is Best-Selling Books Day. So if you want to help make my book bestseller book, you can go to our Facebook page and click on the link for Daughter Siva and get it. And then maybe I could have a best-selling book. Yay!
Yeah, maybe I could, come out of that.
Or you could go to imtaylorthomas.com. You can buy it on there too. So, and now this is going to go into the Rock and Reject segments.
Right about now, you're about to be possessed. Hit it!
All right, so I'm going to do what rocks tonight. The Nick Cage Rage page. Actor Nicolas Cage. I guess he's famous for, and we know I loved him in Valley Girl. And he was in National Treasure.
Right.
I think he's a cool actor. And he's like, I guess he absolutely loves Elvis.
Yeah, he's a big Elvis.
He married Lisa Marie Presley for a while, divorced, but it's just interesting. Well, I guess he's famous for these strange screeches and screams.
He's got a huge collection of Elvis things, and including his daughter. Anyways.
Not anymore, though.
Not anymore.
But, so I guess, people know him for his screams and screeching and over-the-top performances. And I guess even sometimes he rages. So there's this website that dares you, can you rage like Nicolas Cage? It's an interactive website that lets visitors see how their screams compare to those of Nicolas Cage. Who comes up with this stuff? You simply hit a button. You go to the website, you hit a button, and you begin yelling into your computer to see if your rage matches with that of cinema's angriest man. How did he become like the angriest man?
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, who thinks of this?
Jane Works, who's the she's behind the company that the Nick Cage Rage page. She explains this, and I think she did this just so that she wouldn't get sued by him. Nicolas Cage defies definition. He defies logic. He can be an over-the-top character, yet painfully human at the same time. But one thing he can always do is scream. No one screams like Nick Cage. It's part of the feral beast. Part accidental crisis. Something so contradictory, yet so pure. I'm like, what is that about? People have too much free time.
I know.
So if you want to scream into your computer and let your family think you're crazy, go to the Nick Cage Rage page and take the scream test.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, that's just kind of a fun thing, right?
That's why it rocks. It's fun.
That's why it rocks. It's not hurting anybody, and that's some case, stuff like this is like, well, hey, what the heck, why not?
Yeah.
But we also have a reject story. With every good, there's a bad.
Of course.
With every up, there's a down. With every in, there's an out. With cold, there is hot. With right, there is wrong. With good looking and
there's
ugly, which is the rest of the world. Anyways.
Oh, my.
Reject story. It all started when the post office got these packages that smelled like a skunk and blood was coming out of them.
Okay.
So police say an Indiana man mailed dead skunks and a raccoon to a man chosen over him as a school basketball coach. This 40-year-old Travis Terrance is being charged with stalking, animal cruelty, and other charges.
Yeah, here are the other charges.
Now, he's also being accused of spray painting the guy's car, which things like, you will die. These aren't like wacky people. The victim is a 4th grade teacher, and Travis is a director of a museum. Travis went as far as trapping the animals outside his house.
Terrible.
He also called Child Protective Services, anonymous. See, there, I have to read a word.
Anonymously. It's a hard one.
Anonymously. And he also called, and falsely accused this teacher of having sex with a 15-year-old boy. Now,
Wow.
okay,
Over the top because he didn't get a job.
right, and it's like it wasn't the other guy's fault that he didn't get the job. It's like you think it's a little late now, but you think he'll ever get a job again?
No,
Probably
no.
not looking good. You ain't gonna be able to coach anything.
Good going, Travis.
Nice job, buddy.
And who comes up with that? I know what I'm gonna get at him.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
but what
send
do
him
you
a
mean?
dead skunk.
It's
What
like
is that?
he's not the one that hired him.
And you know somebody.
You think he would have at least, if you're going to be absolutely nuts, you wouldn't have went after the guy who hired the other guy,
Yeah.
not the other guy.
It's like when a guy cheats on his girlfriend. Well, who does she go after? The chick. She should be going after the husband or the
Both of
boyfriend.
them.
Yeah, both of them.
Stack them, whack them, and stack them.
Lay him down and smack him, yak him. Oh God! And you know that this guy couldn't have been the first weird thing he's done.
Oh no,
you don't
there had to be.
I mean, he's 40 years old. He doesn't just decide to go wacko. Yeah. Great. All right.
He's been whacking them and smacking them and stacking them for a long, long time.
Isn't that terrible? Oh, God. All right, so here's the deal. Next week, we are going to be talking about ways that we open doorways for spirits to come onto people and how it's done. And we're going to compare it. We're going to do parallels to physical things. It's going to be very interesting. So people are actually going to be able to grasp how spirits influence us and oppress us by showing, an example of what happens in the real world. So it's going to be a good show.
Sounds fascinating.
But for tonight, I want to thank everybody for listening. Comment or email us. Let us know what you think of the show. And we will meet you back here next week with more of our take on the supernatural.
And we will leave you with this. Don't be a puppet for the world's master. And don't be a bystander believing in just what you see. It's all an illusion until you lift up the veil.
Hey, this is Heidi from Talk Supernatural. You guys know I like to talk, right? So let's keep the topic going. Like our Facebook page, Talk Supernatural Podcast. And follow us on Twitter at TSR Parapod. Like us, love us, hate us? Hit us up with an email. talksupernatural@gmail.com. Listen live on Friday nights and join us in the chat room. We'll make you guys part of the show.
Check out more from Talk Supernatural Radio. Head over to tsradio.net. You can listen to TSR on iTunes, Spreaker, TuneIn, and YouTube. If you have any questions or would like to know more on spiritual afflictions, hauntings, demonic influence, check out Scott and Heidi's SWAT resource site at EP612SWAT.com.
This world's a tortured place to be. So many things to torment me. And as I stumble down this road, it takes a toll. I need an intervention. But I can see it coming. Some things just can't be explained.
And that's all, folks.